Many founders are always wondering, what are VCs gonna think when they see that slide deck? Today, I'm gonna show Nick a slide from a pitch deck. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Headline Deep Dive. Deep Dive is Headline's effort to equip founders like you to look at your business like VCs like us. And today, we are going to do exactly that. We're going to take a slide from one of the decks that I've seen. I'm going to get Nick's reaction, okay? Are you ready? Nick, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. I've looked at many slide decks. I could not be more prepared for this.
Oh, God. Okay, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. First reactions.
Okay, we got a slide here of our progress to date, and we got a bunch of individual numbers from the average order value, the customer acquisition cost, the customer lifetime value. I know the gross margin. I know it's subscription. Okay, wait, we have transaction and subscription-based revenue with different margin profiles, and apparently there's a clear path to $100 million.
Of course.
Which would be revenue in about 6 years. So love to hear that. So the first take is I have basically no context on any of these numbers in the sense of where they're coming from, how these are defined. And I can now do some kind of back of the envelope math between the customer lifetime value. I imagine they calculated this via the traditional kind of LTV calculation, 1 divided by the churn rate times the average or like the annual order value, which if I look at that, this is the average monthly value. These customers are not even sticking around for a year because $290 times 12 would be like $3,500-ish dollars. And the customer lifetime value is like 1.3K. So like these customers on average are just sticking around for 3 months. So it's really high churn. At the same time, the customer acquisition cost apparently is really low. I have no idea if this CAC number is fully loaded or what really went into it. Fully loaded means is this just performance spend, this customer acquisition cost, or is this the full total sales marketing function that business spends on? It would be helpful to basically just have a little asterisk like, hey, this is loaded with just Facebook ad spend, or it's loaded with the entire marketing team, or this is the sales team plus commission plus the marketing team. This is like the fully loaded version of the CAC number, having context of what has gone into this CAC number. I don't know what to really associate with this CAC number, but even here, this CAC seems very low versus the average order value, which usually is a good thing. My problem is if I look below here, the 49% margin versus the 70% gross margin, I don't know if this average order value is the subscription amount, if it's the transaction-based amount. I would assume here it's both. And they have a blended margin of like, I would just guess now 60% on this, but I don't know how much each makes up between the two. So it's hard for me to really assess anything. The clear path to $100 million is every single company kind of tells me a story like this, but the proof is usually in the pudding. So I'd rather look at the historicals to see where's this business performing today and then make my own assumptions. So I don't put a lot of value into that prediction. Instead of telling me what is the average order value, tell me what the historical revenue has been. A bar chart up and to the right, hopefully, or just a bar chart of where revenue has been. How does that translate to customer count? If I see those two numbers next to each other, it's easy for me to back into the actual average order value and how that potentially might have even changed over time. Given that this business has a subscription and a transactional component, it might even be helpful to break up the bar chart into those two components. What of this part is subscription? What part of this revenue is transactional? So that I can assess basically how this business is growing across those two business models. The customer lifetime value number, I usually discount them completely. I'd rather see an accurate forecast for the next 12, 18 months of where a certain fundraise is going to get a business instead of telling me, hey, we're going to be $100 million in 6 years. It's just such a far out goal that the only thing that's usually certain with forecasts is that they don't exactly come true as they are forecasted. So having such a far one out usually is not something that I as an investor would put a lot of credit to.
Putting customer lifetime value is like standard or fair in all decks. I mean, 99% of the decks I go through, it's in there. One over churn, that's not a good way of looking at it. What should be the right way of thinking about customer lifetime value?
We at Headline always love to look at everything on a cohorted basis. So we want to look at how much cumulative revenue does a cohort on average generate for a business over time? How many customers are in a cohort to start with? We divide the cumulative revenue generated by a cohort with that opening customer count, so we know how much revenue is a business generating for every customer that they do acquire, and then multiply that with the gross margin of the business to ultimately get to the cumulative gross profit per customer, which really tells us those gross profit dollars can be used to pay back the customer acquisition spend. That's really the customer lifetime value of a business. It also tells us the timing of how this customer lifetime value accrues as these customers, as this cohort ages with you over time.
It's okay to not put a single number in front of investors. In fact, if you use something like Deepdive, it's going to be a trend of your total ARPU for that customer over time. And it's totally okay. We know businesses evolve, they go up and down, but we're looking for that specifically. So it's not needed to put it into a single number. Is that right?
Or if you really want to boil it down because you want to put a beautiful slide with a bunch of numbers on it, tell me what is the cumulative gross profit per customer after life month 12, after life month 24. So that tells me the timing of this lifetime value as well.
That's much better. Yeah, I like that. Okay, well, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, comment below. Nick and I were here to answer your questions, and we'll see you guys next time.